Hello and welcome to another Dark Souls related video. In this I wanted any excuse to chat about the bosses in Dark Souls 3's DLC, and what better way than to just rank them. There are 6 bosses in total and this is from the worst to the best. So, in at number 6 is Halflight Fear of the Church. This boss works as part of an online PvP mechanic that Dark Souls is so famous for. Instead of fighting AI, someone in the real world is summoned in to fight you and test your skills. They did this back in Demon Souls with the old monk, and that fight could end up broken as hell because you could literally be summoning in someone who could have 99 of each healing item and the fight would last for 3 hours. But this doesn't negate from the fact that it is a cool idea at the heart of it, and it's something extra to spice up the game and the longevity of it and so on and so forth. But, if you're like me, you don't really care for the PvP aspect of Souls, and so this fight is just tedious in the extreme. I play offline, so what I'm treated to instead is your basic run-in-the-mill NPC invasion. Nothing new, nothing exciting, and with the added bonus of 2 painted guardians who will heal the boss. It's not particularly difficult, it's not particularly challenging, it's just a lot fired at you. It's a lot of knife throwing, a lot of projectiles in general. It's just a shame they felt it necessary to place this boss well before, that other boss, which we'll talk about later. Grif Tender is at number 5, part of only 2 bosses in the Ashes of Ariandel DLC, and I think this is what makes it stick out even further as being not too great or memorable. Had the Ariandel DLC had a couple more bosses to it, it perhaps wouldn't have stuck out like a sore thumb. I guess what I'm saying is, if a DLC is going to have only 2 boss fights, then those 2 fights had better be phenomenal. Unfortunately, Grif Tender isn't actually phenomenal at all, but rather, it feels a lot like a boss we've already fought before. In Dark Souls 1, we fought Sif, the giant dog. No one really had a problem with Sif. He is, after all, quite a unique boss within the first Dark Souls. In Dark Souls 2, we had Royal Rat Authority, and in that fight it just felt like a poor man's Sif, basically. With dogs, of course, because putting in dogs makes every fight better, right? Grif Tender has it all. It has the generic NPC invader dude, it has the erratic mini-dogs, and then it tops it off with Sif. Now, admittedly the moveset has been updated, it's faster, it's absolutely more threatening, but it's just listed here as it's not anything new, and it feels so familiar already. If they remade Dark Souls 1, I imagine this is what the new Sif fight would feel like. Number 4, Demon Princes. Now, this is where the list becomes incredibly tough to plan out, because the last 4 bosses are actually among the best fights of Dark Souls 3, and, in my opinion, among some of the best in the entire series. Demon Princes are at number 4 because I think the AI for this fight is very fun, and I was very impressed with it on my first playthrough. I love the dynamic between the 2 demons in Phase 1. There's one active demon hunting you down, crawling, scratching and biting at you, constantly on your ass, and the other demon is in the distance, throwing out streams of toxic. You can't just ignore the more passive demon, because you'll get infected with the toxic status, and getting infected with toxic in Dark Souls 3 is actually kind of a big deal. The ongoing damage toxic does is very punishing, so you really have to be hyper aware of your surroundings in this one. Don't get greedy and take your time. Their moves are not that hard to avoid, so it's classic Soul stuff. Nothing feels unfair or cheap, just have fun with it and make your attacks accordingly. Phase 2 is interesting as well. Depending on which demon you kill first, you'll be left with a Phase 2 demon with different movesets. I like to kill the red demon because the orange one has a laser attack which is super exploitable. If you kill the orange one, you're left with a red demon which does a crazy overhead fireball attack, and it's pretty deadly, so it's best to avoid in my opinion. Number 3 is Frida. Frida is a damn interesting boss because basically there's not 1, not 2, but 3 phases. Yeah, 3 phases here. 3 separate health bars to this. So to some this is an epic fight, a test of endurance. Put your patience to the test to see if you stay focused enough to see it through. But to others, they see this fight as a bit of an Estus sponge. The collective health bar between the 3 phases is over 18,000, which I'm sure we can all agree is rather insane. You'll need to make sure you've got a weapon that's able to dish out high damage. Now, where do I stand in this fight? Do I see it as an epic showdown or just one phase too many? I'm actually somewhere in between, conveniently enough, because here's the thing. When I first played the Frida fight, I was quite amazed because just take a look at that second phase. It's goddamn amazing. Visually, the contrast between Frida's blue frost attacks and Ariandel's warm fire attacks is stunning. It's very reminiscent of Ornstein and Smough, from Dark Souls 1 obviously. One big guy being very slow and one little guy being very fast. The two complement each other. However, this doesn't feel like a cheap and lazy reproduction of that fight. This feels fresh. How many times have we exactly seen a giant guy with a chair stuck to his ass wielding a gigantic bowl of Estus? Not many, that's for sure. And here's another kicker to this unique fight. When I originally got past phase 2 and the Titanite slab came up on my screen, I was blown away. The game actually made me think I'd done this fight first try. It trolled me into believing that it was all over. But my smile quickly faded as Frida rose up from the ground once more to kill me instantaneously. GG FromSoft, that was a clever move. On the other hand, I can understand people's gripes with 3 phases. Once you've gotten used to the first and second phase, all you're really interested in is phase 3. It's the hardest part. Black Flame Frida is very fun for me, and so sometimes it's a little frustrating having to play through 2 phases just to get to the 3rd phase. When you're trying to practice this boss, it can become tiresome. However, this is still one of my favourite fights. Black Flame Frida is like Lady Maria of Bloodborne, and to me, even better. Her moveset is glorious, and one wrong move and you're dead, so you better be on your toes with this one. In at number 2 is Meteor. Now, I want to take a moment and say I'm really surprised that ultimately Meteor has made it to number 2. I'll explain. On my first playthrough, I didn't like Meteor. I hated him. At first, I had this knee-jerk reaction because he's a goddamn dragon, and I kind of have always disliked dragon fights. Dragons in Dark Souls 2 are subpar at best. Fighting Ancient Dragon is a completely hollow experience. The Guardian Dragon isn't challenging, although props to the nice boss room. And even Calamite isn't that great for me. I guess it just comes down to the nature of dragons, and, you know, dragons like to fly, they like to jump around, and that just tends to play havoc with the infamous Dark Souls camera. It's also aggravating fighting an enemy that can just break off fighting you whenever it feels like, constantly disengaging and slowing the fight down. So that's my reasons why I don't like dragon boss fights. However, Meteor isn't like that. To me, Meteor is the best dragon fight they've ever done. Meteor has a fun moveset. It might take a while to get used to, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be dodging and dancing around his attacks, feeling like a god. This fight just has that special something. He's not a pushover, he has a lot of health, he has the potential to one-shot you. Definitely one of the fights I look forward to in the game. Don't let your attention drop. One poorly timed dodge and it could all be over. So there's only one boss left, obviously, and that's Gale. God damn it, Gale. You're so good. Gale is number one, and quite honestly, number one of all Soulsborne. Quite a heavy statement to make, considering there are over 100 bosses to pick from. But Gale just epitomizes everything of what makes a Souls boss fun. Gale is a humanoid, and just like Artorias, he gives you that nice feeling of fighting someone on an even playing field. You're just two fighters battling it out until one of you dies. It feels honourable. Gale, like Frieda, also has 3 phases, but you don't notice it as much because it all contributes to the 1 health bar, which I actually prefer. You can peck away at the health and know exactly how much you still have to go in order to finish the fight. The 3 phases helps keep the fight fresh as well. You may notice Gale has a lot of health, and the fact that Gale can change up his moves as the fight progresses means that you can't just sit back on your laurels dodging the same attacks over and over. Keep your focus on this one. Always be thinking ahead as what he may or may not be doing next. It's incredibly fun, and I'm so appreciative that the last boss of Dark Souls was so satisfying. It was so important for the hardcore fans to get a boss worthy of ending this amazing series, and I really think Gale delivers it in a challenging way. It was also sad knowing there won't be more after Gale, but I think long-time fans can be happy with what they got in the Ring City. So that's it. I know I haven't made much YouTube content recently. That's because I'm spending more time on Twitch these days. It seems like a platform more suitable to reach out to other players. I just thought I'd honour my own series of boss videos and complete it by including this. It felt horribly empty without it, considering these bosses are very much worth the time talking about. So anyway, catch you later and bye for now.